This is not a sermon about AI. But if you know me and you've talked with me recently, you know that's all I'm thinking about. Something about this big moment in our history and what's happening in society and our culture and technology has been captivating and captifying for me. It's just been so interesting, and I'm fascinated and intrigued and curious about all the implications of what's happening right now. And recently, there was a big story about Mark Zuckerberg, where he was championing AI and what's being created and done as kind of a balm for our loneliness crisis. That he was kind of sharing in this podcast about how all of this new AI and what it means for us personally, it gives us something new. It gives us something to fill a hole in us that maybe the world around us is not filling. And through that kind of podcast, I started going down these rabbit trails, listening to podcasts and reading articles like this. The risks of AI companionship. Can AI companions help heal loneliness? The surprising case for AI boyfriends. Can AI companions replace human connection? And now, again, this is not an AI sermon. I'm not going to go deep into my thoughts or feelings or anything on AI, but there's some interesting implications there of this new kind of wave of using AI to find meaning. There's some concerns we should have about that. But regardless of how we feel, and a lot of these podcasts were opposed. They were saying, hey, I don't think this is good. I think we should be careful and watch out. But regardless, the largest AI companion companies have been shooting up to the tens and hundreds of millions of users. This market is exploding, and data suggests that people are becoming increasingly acceptant and comfortable with the idea of a disembodied AI as our therapist, our friend, even lovers. Many people are using this for many reasons, but a study of 1,000 people that are using one of those AI services showed this, that 90% of the people using it, 90%, regularly experience loneliness. So why am I telling you this? Why am I bringing it up? Aside from scaring you and letting you know that the future is here. It's no longer sci-fi. What do these AI trends tell us? That humanity has a longing and need for connection that is hardwired into us. Belonging, intimacy, love, friendship, we want it. But secondly, humans are increasingly burnt out, ill-equipped, or complacent when it comes to forging our relationships. We're burnt out. We don't want to try anymore. We're ill-equipped. We don't even know where to start to make this connection. Or we're complacent. We think we're fine and we don't need any more. So, what's the answer to this need? What's the answer to this problem in us to connect, to find people? Like I said, it's not the world. More than half of Americans say that no one knows them well. 36% of people say that they're lonely frequently or almost all the time. It's only been getting worse. I believe that this book, that scripture, shows us what to do. It gives us the answer. It gives us a community to belong to, a cause to run after together, and it's a compass leading us to create those relationships. So, like I said, my goal here for today is, yes, to give you some information about what scripture says about community, but it's also to give you a charge for the summer. As we head into June and July and August, there's so many things we're gonna be doing as a church. And my hope for you is that as we step into that, as you go after those things and trying to build community, that you would live it out. 3 months of practicing the way of Jesus. It's not always easier than what the world offers, but it's better. So our text today, just a little bit of context. This author is writing to Jewish Christians in the first century. That's why those first few verses that I wanted to add for context is talking about what Jesus has done for us and what that means. He uses a lot of temple language, Old Testament language. And in verses 19 through 21, the author is explaining that because of Jesus, we have access to God. That Jesus is now, just like the temple in the past, he is our high priest. That when God looks at us, he doesn't see our mess, he sees our advocate, Jesus Christ. And because of that, something has changed in us. Our situation has changed. And then the author goes to 3 different kind of exhortations, commands, responsibilities for the Christian life. Because of your new reality, you have new actions. The first 2 were vertical. That's us and God. Let us draw near to God. Let us hold on to our confession of hope in God. Today, we're looking at the third, a communal implication, a horizontal third responsibility. It says, let us consider one another. Verse 24, let us consider one another in order to provoke love and good works. This is a mission statement for Christian community. It's what we are meant to do for each other, with each other. This first kind of direction says, let us consider. That idea of consider, that verb, it's giving attention and concern to someone, deep thought about them. We know this from dating, that if you're interested in someone, what do? You find out as much as you can about them. What do they like? What makes them mad? What makes them happy? What brings them joy? You figure out all of these things about someone so that you can act the right way. If they don't like this kind of food, we're not gonna go to this restaurant. So much of that early phase of dating is considering someone, figuring out who they are, knowing their hopes, dreams, gifts, shortcomings, how to serve them, how to push them. So who do we consider? It's one another. There's a mutuality to it. It's not just you consider them and you do this for them. It's one another. You're doing it for me. I'm opening myself up to being considered by you. That's the church. That's spiritual friendships, groups of different people that aren't the same, aren't just like each other, and we're considering each other to know what they need, what they want, what they desire. Why? Then it kind of shows us, why are we considering? Why is that the first verb? It's in order to provoke. Maybe your translation shows spur or stir up good works. I do like spur because it's that idea of giving a horse just a little kick to get moving. Why do they use this language? Once elsewhere in the New Testament, this verb is used to describe a disagreement between Barnabas and Paul that caused this kind of Christian Avengers to split up and go their different ways. And the reason for that word, provoke, is that it's not just this mild, gentle parenting. There's a pushing towards a goal. That if I'm on a team with you, if we play football together and I'm the quarterback and you're one of the linemen and you're just not really trying, I want to provoke you to do better. I want to push you towards doing your job, because if you don't do your job, I get sacked, we all lose. This idea of provoke, it's a little more than just, better luck next time. I'm pushing you to where you need to be, where you're meant to be. I love the commentarian Donald Guthrie talked about this section, and he said that provoking suggests that love and good works will not happen on their own. They need to be worked at and provoked. And I love that the writer combines this idea of considering one another with provoking one another. Provocation without consideration runs the risk of being harsh, disconnected, and ineffective. Spurgeon said that about this, that some people will find a tender spot where a wound will be most felt, and they'll play upon it or jest about it, but that is evil. We consider each other, we figure out each other's needs and what's helpful for someone else in order to provoke them. We don't provoke without considering first, how do they need to be provoked? These two things are hand in hand because we're dealing with actual people, not hypotheticals. So then he paints this goal in this text. We're provoking each other, why? As a community, for love and good works, an inward attitude and disposition of love that is shown through the outward good works that we do. Our goal is that someone would become what God meant for them to become, more like Jesus, to belong in his body, to purpose to set their hands to. We all desire this. We all desired to be provoked for love and good works. I went to the gym last night to kind of process and think through some things in this text, and I wasn't trying really hard. I had no one there to provoke me to do good works. I was kind of wasting my time. Probably did not do a lot for me physically. We want a gym partner like that says, hey, I have a goal for you. I have a desire for you. I want to push you towards this. I'm going to provoke you knowing what you need towards those good works. We want that, but it's easier said than done. If our goal is a community that is pushing each other towards being more loving and also doing these good works, doing things for the kingdom of God, how do we get that? It's easier said than done. You all know this, that walking into the theater today did not magically give you community. So that's my goal today. Like I said, Pastor Ben just shared so many different things we're doing as a church this summer, but I want to look at the practical of how we create a community so that when we step into a block party, we step into a meetup, into a neighborhood night, come on a Sunday morning, serve on a Sunday morning, that we're not just doing these things and not expecting something to happen, but we're actively moving towards it. So we're going to look at 3 different practices that I see in verse 25 that supports this community. The first one is a persistent presence. I think there's a graphic. Oh, you look at that. A persistent presence. Verse 25 says, not neglecting to gather together as some are in the habit of doing. So our first instruction to build community is to not neglect gathering together. We need to have these embodied, present, active fellowship with one another. I read an article recently in the Atlantic that talked about this idea that to go from strangers to friends, some studies will say it takes 40 to 60 hours with each other. But to be deep friends, it takes up to 200 hours of time with someone. We need presence with other people to build relationships. Again, Donald Guthrie, he said, no provocation to love is possible unless suitable opportunities occur for the stirring process to take effect. If you're not with people regularly, you will have shallow relationships, shallow life change. Many of you know this. You have a boss who's never in the office and they want you to do certain things and act a certain way, but there's no relationship there. And so your motivation shifts when you're not present with that person. And some of us have felt this in a harder way, an absent parent, a distant spouse. That time away from people changes our relationship with those people. Mutual love is dependent on a persistent presence in the lives of fellow believers. There cannot be encouragement in isolation. Now, this doesn't mean perfect attendance. This isn't constant presence, it's persistent. The writer says it's as some are in the habit of doing. He clarifies, hey, you need to keep gathering together. Some are neglecting that. They're not making a good habit of it. It's a trend that's symptom of a lack of caring for the community. You're not commanded to burn yourself out with constant Christian activity, but you're challenged to be consistently involved. So ask yourself, am I meaningfully engaged in a body of believers? Worshiping together regularly, learning his word with other people, using our gifts, stirring one another up. The world doesn't do this. It's countercultural to have this viewpoint, this posture. The world disciples quitters. Jesus calls us to be partakers. What do I mean by that? The world is training us to approach community in a way where we are impatient when we don't get what we want quickly. We have unreal expectations on people that can't handle the weight of human imperfectness. And we are comfortable with isolation over the discomfort of being formed by other people. The world views the church as a supermarket to stop by. When you're low on what you need, you just run in quietly, don't let anyone see you. You're not talking to anyone. You're just grabbing a couple of those groceries you needed. You're getting out and you'll come back when you need a little refill. That is how many of us view the church because the world has shaped us that way. It's a supermarket to stop by. Jesus wants it to be a community garden, that we share the experience of tilling the soil, working shoulder to shoulder, bearing up that weight together and feasting around a table with what we have seen grow. So how do we practice this persistent presence? I think the first, and this is kind of common with all my points today, but the first is to ask yourself a question. Why are you resistant to having a persistent presence? Is it busyness? Is it that it's not a priority, that you'll do it later? Shame, fear, anxiety, laziness, past hurt. This isn't a condemnation. Sometimes it's seasonal. I know for me, my wife and I, we have 2 little kids, and it's been hard to get consistently involved in community with children. But regardless of where we're coming in from, we need to wrestle with the why. Is there an idol in our place that's stopping us from giving the community the attention it deserves? Is there a fear that needs to be addressed? God can handle your hesitations and so can we, but it's important to get to the root. So practically speaking though, how do you do this? I want to talk about 2 groups. One, people who don't have community, and one, people who'd say that they do have community. For the first group, to practically practice this presence, what would it look like to actually lean in? to build a perseverance and persistence in how you approach community. Prioritize being physically and mentally present over the next few months. What do I mean by physically? We just said block parties, 8 days. We have meetups. We have neighborhood nights. We have Love DC. We have Welcome to Church. We have throughout the summer, as you get to know people, at the end of the summer, you can start a family group with the people that you've met. Be persistently present this summer. It doesn't mean come to everything, but make it a priority to be part of the body, the life of the church, beyond just the Sunday morning. Be present. And don't just go to activities or programs or events. When you're there, get to know someone, ask them questions, get their number, hang out, get lunch after church, get coffee before work. You have to be present in order to build a community. And not just physically present, but mentally present. You all know this. Turn the phone off. Take a moment to step away from the distractions of the world and work and be present with someone. Ask them questions. Listen. Follow up with them on something they told you later. Write it down and make a note to get back up to them about it. Let this be a summer of being present. For those of us who have community, often the question is, well, I am present. I have community. I don't need that. Here's my challenge to you. How can you facilitate and include others into your lives? That if you have the warmth of Christ, if you are like the hot coal in the middle of the fire, how can you pull in some of those coals on the outside? I don't have to warn any of you that we live in a transient city. So that for some of you, you have your community and you're feeling great. But let me just say that you are a few transfers, promotions, and affordable housing away from being a small group of one. So don't get too comfortable. And I would challenge you also, don't view church as this transactional opportunity that I got my community, I got what I want, I'll see y'all later, I'm good. No, you view it as a chance to pour into other people. I know for me, when my wife and I moved here in 2019, my younger brother and his wife were here, so we kind of were born on second place. We had some community built in, but it wasn't a guarantee that I would be able to make friends that poured into me. And I'm so thankful for so many men in particular that don't even live here anymore, that in that season, that first year with all of its ups and downs, there were guys who, they didn't have to become Jacob Harkey's friend. They had other friends, but they said, I'm gonna step into your life and invite you into what we're doing. Some of you know their names, some of you completely forgotten their names. Rick Bell, Vinny Ronca, Mike D, Kevin, I see Kevin, he's down here, he's visiting, but he doesn't live here anymore. Alex, Evan, Lysandro, Jake. I had so many guy friends that first year that owed me nothing but stepped into my life and said, you can join in what we are doing. We need differing layers of community. We need close friends. We need people to just help us move in. We need people to watch our dog for us, people to hang out with at church to get to know better. We need a community, a vibrant community. And even if you already have some people, you have an opportunity to invite people into something deeper. So a persistent presence. Make it a priority. Second thing to practice is a supportive posture. It says not neglecting to gather together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. I love that this contrast, what is happening in the text is he's explaining what the gathering is meant to look like. He's saying, don't neglect to do this, but encourage each other. Why? Because this is for encouragement. This is for growth. That an idea of encouraging is earnest support. It's helping move someone towards acting and thinking and believing a certain way. Spiritual formation is done in community, not just in the isolation of our own time. Our relationships are meant to produce positive and helpful outcomes for one another. Being present is great, but what is the aim of those interactions? As you are present, as you are showing up, as you're getting involved at this church or a church and you're trying to get into the life of the community, what is the posture that you have for that community? Because if you're just there to receive and get what you want, you're gonna have a different experience. Scripture's filled with directives for what community is meant to look like. I could have preached on dozens and dozens of texts. It tells us to love one another, show hospitality, live in harmony, forgive one another, bear with one another, confess to one another, comfort one another, strengthen one another, stir up one another, instruct, exhort, build up one another. So many different texts are pointed towards the goal of community, and it's all these one another's. That I care about what's happening for you, and you're caring about me, and we've got each other's back. That is the goal of our friendships. It's not just getting something. Is this what your friendships look like? Are the men and women around you growing in love and good works because of you? It's a question we should ask ourselves. One of those people I was listening to on a podcast about AI is a sociologist, and she's been, her name's Sherry Turkle. She's from MIT. She's been on the forefront of warning about a lot of the negative effects of phones and social media and now AI. And there's this quote on this podcast that she said, modern technology is so psychologically powerful that they don't only change what we do, they change who we are. Something is changing us, and we have the opportunity as the body of Christ to step into relationships with one another and help change the person in front of us, to help transform them into the image of Jesus. It's a communal responsibility. Colossians, it's beginning of Colossians, it's Paul's prayer for this church, and it's beautiful. He says, for this reason also, since the day we heard this, we haven't stopped praying for you. We are asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, so that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all power. And it goes on and on and on. And this prayer, does that look like how we think about our friends? That you want this for them? That your prayer for your friend, that your action in your friend's life is with the goal that you would be filled with the knowledge of his will. That if I want that for you and you want that for me, that we're gonna push each other to have that together. The world isn't working to produce people who care more about others than themselves. The world disciples takers. Jesus calls us to be givers. Here's what that means. The worldly approach to community preaches a prioritization of your needs above all else, connection around negative and life-stealing things like complaining and gossip and hating the other, and it defaults to comfort instead of being challenged. Practically, most of the world views people as a resource to be drained. That if you're not benefiting me anymore, then I'm on to the next thing. That's how the world views our interactions with each other. That if this group doesn't have anything for me, then I'm out. Jesus wants us to live like fountains. That when we are filled with God's Spirit, when we are filled with his purpose, that we then pour out onto other people, that we replenish them. The question isn't what can I get, it's what can I impart on you. This is so much harder than being present. It's easier to show up. It's harder to have a posture of I'm showing up to put you first. But that's where transformation happens. And let me say this, that as you do that, as you become more selfless and humble and joyful and generous with how you view other people, you will become more like Jesus, and that will draw people to you. Thomas Barr 2 weeks ago already used the PowerPoint move, so I can't use it. But there's so many men and women I've met at this church over the years that I could go through lists of names that they're magnetic, that people are drawn to them, that there's something about them that says, I wanna know that person, I wanna be friends with that person. And it's not because they had anything to give, it's because they care. So many people at this church like that. So how do we practice this kind of posture? Let me say first, I love that Kristen said this in her giving, that there's grace for us all. Some of us are in a season where it's hard to do this. That's everything you can do to drag yourself out of bed. So there's no shame for that. But I will say that a community is a hospital for healing and recovery, not a dead-end morgue. That as we heal, as we grow, as God is doing something in us, our goal is not to stay there, it's to move into something where we can bring people into this community. So how do we practice it? Let me say this too, it doesn't come naturally for me. I am an introvert. I was working on this sermon and I sat on the metro for an hour in silence to think. And I thought it was like 10 minutes. I just was riding. That's my disposition, that's my personality, is to think that way. I'm not maybe the most natural at asking questions, building friendships. It's hard for me. I will say this though, the best way I've learned and that I'm continuously trying to learn is by imitation. Who has encouraged you? As you're present, as you're showing up, look to the people that you're like, I want what they have. I want to be like them. Mimic what they do. Imitate how they live their life, how they're winsome. I've seen this posture lived out in so many ways. Asking deeper and better questions, being an active listener, modeling vulnerability, going first in confession, creating a hospitable space, slowing down, planning ahead for these conversations, coming prepared with what the Lord is doing in your heart so that you can offer that to someone else instead of showing up just to receive and receive. My wife is like this. She's so good at being present. I'm like, let's on to the next thing. We bought a car yesterday. Don't clap. I'm worn out. I shouldn't have done that before preaching. Worn out and broke. And many of you know what buying a car is like, that you sit for hours while they go in and out of the office and they're doing this paperwork and they're doing this. And I'm just tired of it. I'm over it. I'm counting the numbers in our head and how long we're gonna be paying for this car. And we're sitting in the finance office. We can see the finish line and my wife is engaging with the finance guy who might be watching today because she told him about our church, that when he started to ask questions about my job, my disposition was, I just want to get out of here. Let's just finish this. But she had this heart to pause and sit and say, this is what we do. This is why we're in DC. This is what is happening in our lives. And she have the opportunity to say, he's preaching tomorrow if you want to watch it. And suddenly I'm like, now I can't barter with him. I can't argue with him. It's gonna get weird. But I see what my wife does and I say, how do I imitate that? When I'm with men that are wanting to discuss what's going on in their life, how can I slow down and be present instead of just trying to get to the answer at the end of it? I could go again through this list forever. I have friends here that ask great questions, that are great listeners, that are vulnerable, that when we started having a family group of guys like my brother who were the first ones to step into, hey, confession, this is what I'm dealing with. And when that was modeled for me, suddenly I could live that way too. So imitate people. Enter into a space ready to go battle for those other people and live it out together, not just receive something for yourself. We've experienced this in a family group. And my encouragement for you, if you're not in a family group or you don't have kind of maybe an intimate, smaller community, is to spend the summer going to neighborhood nights, meetups, welcome to church, all these different activities, meeting people with the goal that by the end of the summer, you have met some people and built some friendships so you can start a family group together, this small group of accountability. If I was to go into my family group and say, hey, I'm dealing with a lot of anger, I'm drinking myself to sleep every night, and the guy next to me goes, thanks for sharing. I am struggling with this thing. No, what happens in that context is when I share what's going on in my life, another guy has the opportunity to speak into my life, to say, this is what you should do. Hey, you're struggling with that. Let me walk with you through it. Hey, you're have this angry disposition all the time. Let me ask some questions. Why are you so angry? What in you is kind of bringing it about? Having community like this to step into and care about the other person is crucial. And imagine what it would look like if we all viewed community this way. Not as dull places to go vent and kind of go through Christian motions, but groups where we can fight for each other. Groups where we can encourage one another. Where my goal is not my growth, my goal is your growth, and yours is mine, and we're gonna get there together. That is what it looks like to encourage one another. I'll just speak to the men because the AI thing is increasingly worse for men from some of the studies I was reading. How would our church change if every man in here decided that I'm gonna find small group community, whatever it takes? To have men not just to share a couple things I'm dealing with, but to really go to war together of like, here's the sin I'm struggling with and dealing with, and I need you to have my back. I need you to hold me accountable. What would it look like to encourage each other, to speak life into each other, not to just have fun, grab a couple of beers, laugh a little bit and head out, but really pour into each other's life? How different would our church look if this is what the men of our church look like? Was to step into life-giving community of encouragement, not just passing time and having fun. This is not just a lofty ideal, it is essential for following Jesus together. So we want a persistent presence and a supportive posture. And the third practice we'll end on is a kingdom purpose. The final remarks of that text in Hebrews says, not neglecting to gather together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging each other, and all the more as you see the day approaching. What is that? That's weird. Why'd you say that? The day approaching is something repeated often in the New Testament. It's the day of the Lord, it's often called. Jesus talks about a day approaching. It's in Acts, it talks about this. The New Testament throughout it, it's pointing towards an end. Return, judgment, new heavens, new earth. That something is coming when everything broken here will be different. It's pointing towards the end. Christ's return when this old and broken world will give way to something new. Why does the writer swerve into this imagery? It's kind of random. Don't stop gathering together, encourage each other, and all the more because the end is coming. That's kind of terrifying. What's the reason for this? It's a reminder that your life is meant to have purpose. That there is a shot clock winding down. We don't have the benefit of knowing when the buzzer goes off, but there's a shot clock ticking down. And so many of us, we live our lives like we're living in the suites, having a good time, watching the game play out. And this call, this reminder of the end is that no, you're meant to be in the game. That there's more to your life than relaxing and having fun and passing time. Your life is meant for something. It has a purpose. Community is for more than just having some kickball teammates. It's more than work happy hours. It's more than finding some bird watching friends or Nats fans, although those are all good things. Friendships are meant to be rallied around a shared cause, living in the hope and expectation of a day approaching when Jesus will return. Living so that when we see his face, we look at him and we say, I didn't waste my life. That my purpose was for more than getting the things I wanted and having a little bit of fun along the way. That my purpose was seeing your kingdom restored here. My purpose was encouraging and lifting up brothers and sisters and walking through the difficulties, the highs and lows of life together. That is what we are made for. We're not made to pass time as the clock ticks down. We are called to a deeper purpose than that. We need a kingdom purpose in our life. The world disciples drifters. Jesus calls us to be anchors. Here's what I mean by that. The worldly approach to community is marked by meaningless pursuits. It orients goals, hopes, dreams around pleasure and decreasing pain, and it lacks a vision beyond the self. It's drifting through life. Live it up while you're young, and when you're old, just settle into comfort. But Jesus calls us to be anchors, that we are not tossed about by our desires, but we are grounded and rooted in something bigger and better and more worthy of our time and our lives than ourselves, more worthy than anything we can imagine. That's what it looks like to have a whole life orientation around Jesus. That is a kingdom purpose. The world is content to only be about good times and temporary achievements, sipping martinis on the deck of the Titanic, building sandcastle monuments to ourselves before the waves crash down. And this isn't a tirade against joy or working towards different accomplishments. Let me say that, don't get that twisted. God has given us good gifts to enjoy. He set our hands and our times and our money towards different jobs and careers and vocations and hobbies and activities, different things to put our life towards. But what is under that? If it's just for you, if it's just to pass time, what's the point? The challenge is to ask, what is my life for? And how does that impact my view of people? An orientation around God's purposes to reconcile people to himself, to transform lives, for justice, for a better way, for glorifying God in everything we do. This orientation around God will breathe life and intentionality into your friendships that nothing else in the world can give. Things like Love D.C., an opportunity to serve alongside each other in order for other people to flourish. It's a chance to step into a deeper purpose in how we connect each other beyond just trying to fulfill some desire in me. Community we'll move from a good but shallow end goal to the means for becoming more like Jesus and glorifying him when we have a greater purpose for our community. So how's this done? We'll end here. For starters, again, ask yourself, what am I running towards? What's the why behind my choices? And this is not rhetorical. Wrestle with that. Where's your time go? Where are your thoughts always going? What gets your attention? What gets your affection? What gets your desires? What gets your bank account? What gets your calendar, your goals? What principles and causes are you oriented around? You don't have to have it all figured out right now. But ask yourself that. Don't let the days and weeks and years add up as you just drift through life doing whatever feels right in the moment. Another practical tip is to not settle for the superficial. There's a deep longing and need in so many of us. And for a lot of you, you don't even know how to understand this whole Jesus thing. And that's fine. I want you to keep coming back and learning more. But for so many of us that are here for a purpose and a reason, my heart for you is that you wouldn't settle for that shallow surface level friendship. That as you're present, as you're encouraging one another, that your actions, choices, and postures would be towards something deeper than yourself, and it'll dictate what you get from it. I love Pastor Tim Keller said this. He said, purpose of Jesus' coming is to put the whole world right, to renew and restore the creation, not to escape it. Are you living in a way that's just escaping the pains of the world? Or are you living in a way to renew and restore what Jesus has purchased through his body? Do it together. Set your affections on Jesus. Think about who he is, what he's done. Meditate on him. Let him set your heart on fire so that others feel the warmth and they say, I want to be part of that. Ending here, Hebrews 3, 1-3 reads, therefore, holy brothers and sisters who share in a heavenly calling, consider Jesus. The same verb is used. Consider Jesus, the apostle and high priest of our confession. He was faithful to the one who appointed him, just as Moses was in all of God's household. For Jesus is considered worthy of more glory than Moses, just as the builder has more honor than the house. Have a life oriented around considering the person and work of Jesus Christ and what that means for you. And as you step into that, as you live a life where you say, Jesus and what he's doing is more important to me, getting these desires and things that I want in my life, as you live a life like that, people will be drawn to you. You will have a community. You will have friendships. You will have relationships because people will look at you and something will be different. I've had so many friends in my life oriented around lesser things, good things, but lesser things, music and sports and humor, and that's all fine, but nothing has transformed me as profoundly as the people who have pointed me at the cross. Last kind of story, a few years ago, I was in a crisis of, what am I doing here? What's the point? And it was during COVID, and I was doing a lot of video work, and I was contracting here at Passion, and I just didn't really know what I wanted. I'd kind of done the 10 years worth of, here's this career, here's where I'm going, but what's the point of all this? And I remember in this season, I had men around me who were asking me those tough questions of, what do you think you're being called to? What do you think your purpose is for? And it was in that summer when they started to push me towards, ask yourselves that question. Is it just to do a job and save up and get the house and do the things? Or is there more to what God has for your life? And it was in that summer that God pulled my heart towards seminary. Filming videos to go into seminary. It was a weird leap. I didn't really see it coming. But it came from men pointing me to more. And it might not be seminary for you and might not be working in ministry for you, but for me it was, hey, God's awakening some things in me. He's stirring up some things in me, and I had community around me to say, I think that is what God wants for you. And so where I'm at today, standing on this stage that 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I never would imagine I'd be, it came from having a community oriented around Jesus and pointing me towards what Jesus had for me. So pursue Jesus. Pursue him in your community. Walk with intentionality and purpose. Allow yourself to be whisked away in the adventure that he has for you, and I promise you won't lack for excitement or fun. And one day you'll look up and realize that you have companions running in the same direction together. So be present this summer. Have a posture of support about caring about other people, and let it all be linked by this greater purpose for what Jesus is doing. And I promise you, it will be a life well worth living as we chase after Jesus together.